Hello my gorgeous babes out there and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the one palette I would keep if I could only keep one from some of my favorite brands. I love doing this kind of videos. I think it's fun and I just love talking about eyeshadow palettes. But before we get into this video, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Bree and I am just a crazy lover of all things beauty, and I like to post a lot of fun and colorful makeup content. I like to do a lot of stuff with indie makeup. So if those things you like to watch, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. I'd love to have you here. But with that being said, let's get into this video. Hello and welcome. It's actually very late when I'm filming this. It's almost 11 and normally my butt is in bed by this time, so I'm just really hyped, motivated, I'm full of energy, and I'm trying to pre-film a bunch of videos before I go on my trip. Now when you're seeing this, I'm already on my trip, so hopefully I am having an amazing time. But I wanted to make sure I was a good YouTuber and you guys actually had videos to watch while I was gone. So I was coming up with ideas of what I wanted to film, and this idea popped up in my mind because I actually did the opposite version of this, and I talked about the one palette I would let go from some of my favorite brands. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about the one palette I would keep if I could only keep one from my favorite brands. Now I don't know who the original creator is of this video. If I can find them, I will link it below. If I can find other influencers that have done this video that I follow, I will link theirs below so you can see other people's versions of this video, because I just think it's fun. I love talking about eyeshadow palettes, especially my favorite eyeshadow palette. So I have, I think, 14 different brands here. I only picked from brands that I actually had a good amount of palettes to choose from, and all of these are brands that I love and enjoy and probably talk a lot about on my channel. So I'm gonna just dive in and pick at random. So the first brand is Earthy Cosmetics, and they're not my most favorite brand when it comes to eyeshadows, but I really think this brand is cool. I love their color stories. I think they're very innovative. So I do always enjoy like using their palettes because I think they come up with really cool color stories. But the one that I would keep from the brand is their Night Flower palette. I actually thought this was one of the best that they've come out with. It's totally my color story too. It's a very cool tone, purple, gray palette, and I love cool tones. I thought the shades were really pretty in here, and they do have some shades that are dual chromes that are shifty. I think are really pretty. Now they're not like super intense in the shift or anything, but I still think they're really pretty on the eyes. I like the options in here. You have mid-tones, depth, you have like lighter shades, and you just have a complete palette here. And I thought the formula was really nice in here, like even better than some of their other eyeshadow palettes. So this would be the one that I would keep. This is their newest release. I did do a review on this and I did a couple looks with this if you want to see more about this palette. The next brand is from Glam, and I love that brand. It's an indie brand. All of their makeup is inspired by like food. I think their packaging is fun and quirky, and the palette that I'm going to mention is one that I've talked about many times as being one of my favorites, and that is the Ice Cream Dream palette. If I could keep one, only one from the brand, which would be very hard for me because I love a lot of their palettes, it would be this one. I think it's like perfect. It has everything that I could possibly need in a palette. It's very colorful, but there's neutrals, there's pastels, there's like depth, there's mid-tones. It's just really fun, and it makes me so happy when I look at this. And I think the metallics are really beautiful and sparkly and creamy in here. And I feel like if I lost my other palettes and this was the only one I had left, I would still be okay because this is beautiful and I enjoy the formula. And it just makes me happy when I look at this. The next brand is from Kaleidos, and this is one of my most favorite brands when it comes to eyeshadow formula, packaging, like color stories, collections. They're like number one. But the one palette that I would keep, if I could only keep one, and this was the only one I could have from them, which is very tragic because I love all their eyeshadow palettes, would be this one. This is the Club Nebula Palette. This was the collab with Angelica Nicovis. I did a review, I did a look, I even talked about this in like a ranking video. I think this was like really high up on my ranking because it's an amazing palette. Look at that. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I love the colors in here. I like the colors that Angelica picked. There's depth. There's like deep colorful mattes in here. There's some shifty shades, and the other ones are just, they're all so sparkly. They're beautiful, and you can create so many different looks with this palette. So I think I would be okay if this is the only one I had left from them. And then the next brand is from Give Me Glow, and I don't have a lot of palettes from them. I think I have maybe like 4 or 5, but the one that stuck out to me, and it's surprising because I feel like this leans a little bit more neutral, but there's just something so beautiful and romantic about this palette. And the one that I would keep is the Give Me Glow Vintage Rose palette. It's just really beautiful. It has mauves, it has a little bit of green, a little bit of olive in there, and I just really enjoy this palette. I think the looks that I was able to create was really beautiful. I can even use this one as a blush, and I just love like the pop of green, and I think that this is probably my favorite. Even with like the formula, I think it's like extra good in this one. And I mean, I do love all my other ones, and I think they're all very good too, but there's just something special about this one, and when I look at it, I just get all the feels, so this definitely would be the one. Then the next brand is Nabla, which is also a amazing indie brand based out of Italy, and I have a good amount of their eyeshadow palettes, and the one that I probably have talked about the most on my channel and in several videos is this one right here. It's the Dreamy 2 The Mystic palette. I knew right away that this would be the one because I just think it's such a gorgeous, more neutral, very cool tone, but very smoky. There is some warm tones in here, but I love like the different formulas that are in this palette. There's like cream to powder mattes in here. There's some really sparkly shades, some more creamy ones. There's inner corner highlights, and I always think about this palette when I'm thinking about doing a very like smoky, sexy, more like neutral look. This is the one that I think of. So I was like, you know what, this would be it. And this was the first palette that popped up in my mind when I was going through the ones that I had, and I was like, which one would it be? I mean, I love a lot of their palettes, but this one is by far probably my favorite one from them. And then the next brand is BH Cosmetics. Oh, BH Cosmetics. I love so many palettes from them. So this one was a hard category because I have a lot of favorites from them. But when I was narrowing it down and I was like, which palette has like everything that I love about an eyeshadow palette, color story, you know, range, quality, and everything. And the first one that came up to my mind was the Passion in Paris palette. This one is so beautiful. It's very cool tone, but there are some like reddy tones down here. It has such a good range. It has jewel tones in here. This is so good, and it's some of their best quality when it comes to eyeshadows. And I was like, yeah, this would be the one. This would be the one to rule them all, basically. But this is the one that I would keep if I could only keep one. And then the next brand, which is Boons Eye. And dang, this was hard too, because Boons Eye is another brand that has my most favorite eyeshadow formula, coolest color stories, wonderful packaging. Like everything is so cool about this brand, and I was going back and forth on which one I would pick because I have so many favorites from them. I was like, would it be this one, maybe this one, no, maybe this one, and then I was like, no, it would be this one for sure. This is the Hummingbird palette. This was a collab with the Fancy Face, and I talked about all of my Oden's palettes. Like I did a whole ranking video. If you want to check that out, I'll link it below. I'll put it up in the corner. And this was the #1 in the ranking, so I was like, this is obvious. This would be it. Now I was going back and forth with this one and the Heya palette that just came out. And I love that one too, but I think I love the color story in this one even more. So this is what it looks like. It's just very tropical. The theming matches me so well, being that I'm from Hawaii. There's so much depth in here. The metallics are really special and sparkly. This one is like a beautiful shifty purple pinky shade. I love this like bright limey green. I love using those kind of shades. I mean, I have a limey green shade on my eyes right now. So this would for sure be it. I mean, I would be so sad to let go of the other ones. Like that's one of the brands that I would be devastated if I didn't have the other ones. But I think I could manage if this was the only one I had left. Why does this give me anxiety, even though I'm talking hypothetical? Like, I am such a mess when it comes to my eyeshadow palettes. And then the next brand is from Nomad Cosmetics. And I really think they're a cool brand. I love the whole travel theming. And they have a lot of fun palettes. Like, I own most of their palettes. And the one that I would say is the one that I like think has the best color story, like the most perfect color story that matches my aesthetics when it comes to makeup. So it would be the Whistler Snow Lodge palette. I think they came out with this not too long ago. I would say like maybe 4 or 5 months ago that they came out with this one. But I think this is the most complete color story out of all their palettes. This one actually has a good amount of deep mattes. It has pastel mattes in here. It has beautiful metallics. They definitely have improved their metallic formula. It has inner corner highlights, and usually most Nomad palettes don't have enough depth in this one, but this had 4 deep shades, and that never happens with their palette. So I was like, this would be it. I mean, this is the one that has all the depth, and I love a lot of like smoky looks. I like to get really deep and dramatic, and I have options. I have a deep blue, a deep green. If I want to be a little bit more neutral, I have a deep brown, and I have a black. So this would for sure be the one that I would keep if I had to let go of my other ones. And then the next brand is Colourpop, and I actually have let go a lot of my Colourpop palettes over the years, but there are a few that I have held on to, and this is probably the one that I would never let go. Even if I got rid of all of my Colourpop palettes, this would be the one that I would hold on to for sure. This is the Lush Life Palette. It's tropical, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous packaging, and this one also has so much like deep colorful mattes in it. And I feel like Colourpop is another brand that doesn't have a lot of palettes with enough depth in them, and they don't really have palettes that have colorful deep mattes in it. So I thought, wow, they finally came out with something that has like my perfect color story in here. They have just a good range. I like the options. I think I could do so many different looks with this, and I was just blown away by this palette. The quality, I thought the eyeshadow looks that I was able to create with this was so beautiful, and I think this is like the really good Colourpop formula. So this would be the one I would keep. And then the next brand is Huda Beauty, and I think I only have 4 palettes from them, but this is the one I probably talked about the most, have raved about the most, and think is some of the best quality from Huda Beauty, and that would be the Mercury Retrograde, which I don't know if you can still get this one, but the packaging is okay. It's the eyeshadows that are just amazing, and the color story, the options. It's very springy. There's pastels. There's some jewel tones in here, but you even have like a shade, like a dark, deep, like purpley plummy shade to deepen up looks. You also have this like deeper reddy burgundy shade to deepen up things. The metallics in here are super sparkly. They're extra special, and this is when I think Huda Beauty started really coming out with really good eyeshadow formulas, and this is when it all started. I think every palette from here has been really good from what I've heard from other people, because I haven't bought anything besides the Jaguar palette since this one has come out, but this is just so beautiful. Like the shadows are so creamy and just scrumptious, so this would be the one I would keep from Huda Beauty. Then the next one is Natasha Nona, which is also one of my favorite brands. They're more of a high-end brand, but I think a lot of their stuff is definitely worth the price. And the one that I think has like everything that I love so much, and is my like #1 favorite from the brand, is the Metropolis palette, which this one I've talked about many times. Like my like most used palette, my like favorite fall palette. So this is something I would be devastated not to have, and I think they actually discontinued this palette, so I'm sorry to be sitting here raving about palettes that you can't get, but this was just amazing. It had so many options in here for, I think it was $129, but you got more colors to choose from, because her other palettes don't have these many shades in here. And you had like oranges, olives, some jewel tones, like some like deeper blues and deep teals. So I could do so many looks with this, so many different combinations. This is like my go-to if I'm thinking of like a more warm neutral palette. If I'm thinking about like doing something very fall, I traveled with this many times, so I think like I would be so sad if I didn't have this one. So if I had to let all the other ones go, this would be the one that I would keep. Then the next one is Melt, and I'm surprised that I picked this one, because originally my like #1 favorite palette from Melt was the Menagerie palette. Like that was the best, like my most coveted palette from Melt. But ever since they came out with the Amore y Mariposa palette, I was like, this would be it, because it has more options in it. It's a lot more colorful. I feel like I have a lot to choose from here, and I feel like the Menagerie one has a lot of beautiful shades in there, but it's limited in how many different looks that I could do. So this would be the one. And I've done a review, I've done a couple looks with this. It has all these like deep colorful mattes in here. It has some pastels, it has beautiful metallics. So I feel like I would be okay if this is the one that I had left. And this is the Super Good Melt formula. And this is something you can still get and pick up. And I think this is like their biggest palette that they've ever come out with. So I just love palettes that have a lot of options and stuff to work with. The next brand is Nomad Cosmetics. And this one was probably the hardest one for me to pick one out of because I love every single Adept palette that I have for different reasons. All of them are amazing. And I was like, why? Why do I have to pick? I would be devastated if any of these palettes weren't in my collection anymore. But I had to do it for the sake of this video. So I went with the OG, the one that started it all, the one that really sparked my passion and love for this brand. And that would be the Plain Jane palette. This is absolutely gorgeous. This is a all like special metallic palette, but it has so many good options. So I don't feel like I would be missing anything. I have my beautiful intense green. I have beautiful intense purples. This like blue shifty one. I have ones that are a little bit more neutral if I wanted to just have a really sparkly, intense neutral look. So I was like, you know what? I feel like this one is probably like the most complete with having like everything that I would want and miss if like I didn't have all the other ones. So this would be like the one that I would keep, but trust me, all of the other ones are just as amazing. I only did this because I forced myself to make a decision, but this would be the one. The last brand is on Earthy Cosmetics, and they're part of like my top 5 brands that I love so much. I have a lot of palettes from them and I love them all. But this one was actually easy for me to pick because one of their palettes became like a holy grail of mine. It was my #1 palette of the year, so I knew right away which one that would be. And that is the Lore palette. I have talked about this several times on my channel. I've raved about it, and I just went on and on about this palette because there's something special about this one. Like, this is just so gorgeous, and it's only a 9-pan palette, but I still feel like I could do a lot with this color story, and every shade in here is so good. Mattes are pigmented, but you can blend them out. They're not one of those ones where they're so pigmented that they just stick in one spot. You can't get it to like diffuse. You can blend these out. You can build them up. You can go in lightly if you need to, and the metallics are so beautiful in here. They're so sparkly and shifty and just intense and everything that I love in a metallic formula. So they have like my favorite metallic formula. They have my favorite matte formula in here. So this is the only palette I could ever really say is like holy grail status for me. And that's really surprising because I have so many palettes, but this one, I don't know, something about it. It just did things for me, okay? It just gave me all the feels. So this one would for sure be the one that I would keep from Earthy Cosmetics. So that was all the brands and palettes that I wanted to mention. I really enjoyed filming this. I love talking about my favorite eyeshadow palettes. It's like my most favorite category when it comes to makeup. But you will have to let me know in the comments below. Were you surprised by my picks, or were you like, that totally makes sense for you? I would love to hear from all of y'all. And if you're new here and you enjoy this video, you like a lot of fun, colorful makeup content, a lot of stuff in indie makeup, then please hit that subscribe button and join this little family. I'd love to have you here. Also, don't forget to check out the description below. I will link all the palettes if they're still available. I will link other videos of mine, any reviews I've done on any of these palettes, as well as the makeup I'm wearing. And I will also link my contact and my social media platforms. I'm also on Instagram as Breezy Lifestyle and Breezy_Beauty. So if you want to check me out on my Instagram, I would really love that. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, for hanging out with me and supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. But I do hope you guys are doing well wherever you are in the world, and I'm just sending you all so much light and love. But until next time, bye guys.